recently that I'm occupied with new
Hi, Amy.
changing my profession to health career.
Yeah.
I don't draw anymore.
Mm. So we'll get back into that little practice. So part of this course, Amy, welcome. I'm hoping that I'm so glad to see you because it would be so hard to speak to the camera this morning by myself. It would be, it's a very different, strange space that we're living in on the virtual realm. But anyway, I'm delighted to see you and start the semester because we're going to move through the next 4 months and hopefully there will be tremendous amount of progress, fingers crossed, with hopefully everything that Corona has sparked up, right? This time has been particularly interesting and of course very devastating for the human species. At the same time, it's the first time that humanity has stopped and slowed down.
Of
And there's a
course.
tremendous potential in that pausing because there's a reevaluation. We're on the planet for such a short amount of time. What is it that we're actually doing here? And is that important and relevant to us, right? Is it to feed you? Amy, tell me a little bit about yourself and about why you're taking this course and where you are in your Roxbury
My
education.
journey.
Yeah, your journey, exactly, your journey. You
Yeah,
took the words
yeah.
right out of my mouth. Yeah.
So, so I'm a mom of 3, and I have one grandson who will be 4 years old.
You're wow.
Yeah,
3 kids. You have
and
3, and you have to teach me how to do that. 3 children.
they keep me, they keep me young.
Yes.
So,
Well, yeah.
but I decided to go back to school and receive a degree once my daughter started high school. I started part-time, but for the last 2 years, I've been full-time so I can complete my degree. I'm doing this. I'm also a site coordinator. I've been serving the youth for the last 6 years. And this brought a whole new light to what I'm doing. I'm now educating myself as well as hopefully sharing what I know, what I learned.
Yeah,
to the
such
youth.
important work. Yeah.
Yeah. So
then,
I'm super excited. Yeah, because I love art. I took painting, and I just enjoyed that class. So I'm like, yes.
It's so interesting. We have, as a
excited.
human species, we have been doing and practicing art for 40,000 years, right?
Right.
And when people come to me and say, right, I don't know how to draw and I don't know how to paint, it's fine. But we have it in our DNA. Either you do it, either you're creative in your dancing or you're singing or you're cooking or the way that you spend time with your children. We manifest creativity in numerous ways. Right. And it's a shame when people don't claim that they're an artist, right? If people say, I'm not the artist, because sometimes in their family they have like the grandfather who painted or the mother, and everyone in the family is that, okay, they're the artist. And we don't claim that for ourselves. What's interesting is that we all have obviously creative capacities in the way that we live, in the way that we move, in the way that we present or dress ourselves, do our hair, right? Those are all creative activities that art is not about. By the way, we're recording just so that you know, because for the folks who are essential workers, I want to make sure that they have these videos. So art is not what you do, it's how you do it. Right? It's not you're not painting a paint. Just because you're painting a painting doesn't make you an artist, right? It's how you do it, with what focus, with what attention. It's the way that you raise your children. It's the way that it's those little, it's actually recognition of being alive, right? It's such an amazing, miraculous thing that we're sitting here with years of experience, and we came from nothing. I mean, literally nothing, right? There's nothing, then there was a spark, and boom, here you are, right? That process is incredible. It's such an awe-inspiring thing. And I'm so excited that you're sort of on this journey, and we're on this journey now together. Even though it's virtual, it's also kind of miraculous that we have this virtual space. Right? 10 years ago, this wouldn't be possible.
No.
So in a sense, this is really and it's an extraordinary time to be alive, right? All the shakeup, structural shakeup, racist shakeup that is currently going on, and part of COVID, it's just such an awakening, because it's never happened. There's never been a slash of history.
Right.
And now here we are. So anyway,
Yeah.
so before we go off on life and love and all that stuff,
Yeah.
let's so in terms of art, right? Where I'm going to show a couple of slides, and I'm going to talk to you about the course and just some logistics. Did you both have time to see the video? And everybody's okay with logging in and finding their courses?
Yeah. I watched the video.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you know my RCC anyway, but I just want to show you where to find the activities for what we're doing this week. We're going to hit the ground running. You will create your own sketchbooks. It's so interesting. History is usually often, and art history as well. Art history is written from the point of view of the person who's there to tell the story. So usually it's written and has been written with a Eurocentric viewpoint, right? And we're going to try to take that art history and that art story and try to dissect it to understand that history has multiple voices, right? It has multiple peoples, and it has multiple perspectives. Usually we were focused on a one-point perspective from, again, from mostly white male point of view. And that's inadequate. It always has been, but it's especially inadequate now. So we're going to look at, obviously, artwork from all the continents. And we're going to talk about what art is relevant to you specifically. Nai, can you tell us a little bit about welcome, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And maybe I'm totally butchering your name, so please correct me. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but if you are there on the Zoom, let us know a little bit about you and where you are in your Roxbury experience.
Are you talking to me? Because
yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, yeah,
okay.
I am.
Before, from the beginning, I wasn't hearing you, so I just increased. I didn't know you were talking to me. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Can you hear me now? I wonder if it's
yes.
my. Okay,
yes,
good.
yes,
Okay.
yes. I think it's from my end.
Tell me about first of all how to pronounce your name correctly. And then tell me about why you're taking this course and where you are in your Roxbury journey. This morning's a little bit, of course, I need to know as much about you as possible so that I can find the artwork that you relate to. Is the ultimate goal.
All right.
So tell me about you and your process in RCC.
Yeah, so my name is Georgina Jones.
Okay. So Georgina,
I mean,
that's the name that you have on the thing, that's a different name then?
Yes.
Okay.
My husband used it for something, so I think it changed my name. So I think I have to change it.
Yes. Okay. And I can show you a little bit how to do that. That's not a problem. But Georgina,
yes.
Fine. Where are you in your process for RCC?
Yeah, so I'm close to graduating, and I have to take this course as a requirement to be able to graduate. And
we will do that.
Yeah, and then what else?
When was the last time that you did any drawing or painting?
Not painting necessarily, but with drawing, I kind of like maybe when I'm somewhere, I don't really remember last time because of COVID. Maybe sometimes job when we go to like trainings and they're kind of boring and I don't want to fall asleep. Yeah, so sometimes I try to sketch. I'm not a good sketcher, but I do a little bit. Yeah. So
we were just talking about that. It's not about knowing how. I will take you technically through the steps of drawing and painting if you want. If you want that skill, I can take you through that, because part of the art history course is also practice. It's not just understanding the theory of art history and looking at images. It's also embodying that theory and understanding that with our bodies, we can recreate and create beauty for ourselves, right? We have the skills, it's in our fingertips as human beings to take what we have outside of ourselves and transform it through our bodies. And it's interesting that US education often educates the brain, like from the neck up, right? We in high school and in education in the United States, people educate the brain. We do a lot of writing, we do the reading, and most of the world does the same form of education, where we educate the intellect. However, and at the same time, we've been very smart for a very long time. We've been going to college. We've been doing, and at the same time, we're killing the world. We're killing the planet, right? So our intellect is not helping in changing the systems that have been in place for a very long time, and it's enough now. We need to, especially in terms of COVID now, we need to reevaluate as human beings what we are doing on this planet. Most of the time, we are just adding to the trash of the world, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question for all of you right now. What is the difference between trash and art? What's the difference? Is this cup artistic? Could this be an art object, or is it in fact trash? How do you know the difference? What's the difference between trash and art? And if you have a cup of coffee, feel free to sip on it.
Well,
what's the difference?
I think both. There isn't much of a difference. It's all about the image and whoever it may relate to each person differently.
Right.
So I think it's not that much difference from trash and art.
Right. Okay. So in humanity, we make and welcome to the class. I'm so glad that you are here. So this is made by somebody, right? We were talking about humanity makes a lot of trash. We don't make a lot of art. So we're talking about and Adeline, we're going to hear from you in a minute about where you are in your process at RCC. But we're talking about what the difference is between trash and art, and why humanity makes so much of one and not the other. So this was made by somebody. Is it art? If I put this in a gallery, if I put it on a pedestal, could I put it there and say, yeah, right, it's worth $10,000? Is it art? Is that possible? Can I do that with this cup? How is it art and how is it not art?
I believe because it's not being made by maybe a professional, the person just made it maybe out of her heart. That's how he or she can do. So maybe that's why to somebody it might be trash. But at the same time, it depends on everything. It depends on how much you can sell it. So maybe when you put too much price on it, the person will say, oh no, this is not worth that.
It's not the value
maybe,
of it, right?
I
Yes.
think it depends on the branding. If you really brand it as a product, it will get value and people will pick it up.
Isn't value interesting? In the other context. I mean, this is my coffee cup, but this is not something that I'm going to, pass on to my grandchildren. Maybe if it's around. I mean, if it breaks, if my first grade son breaks this cup, I'm not going to be sobbing over it. But at the same time, you're right. In terms of what context you put this in, right? There's a little design on it. Someone took time to create this. They even painted a little something on it.
Right.
So it has the elements and the potential, right, to be art. However, if we don't recognize the potential of this object, it can very well, by mistake, crash and fall and break, right? And it's in how we use things and we're so used to in culture, especially capitalist culture, we're so used to processing things, like having more objects, and if they break, they break. If they tear apart, they tear apart. There's a new, piece of clothing around. It's we get new stuff, right? What we found out is that since 1950s. Global climate change is not driven by how many people are on the planet. It's not driven by how it's mostly driven by stuff and capital. It's driven by objects. So in production of these things, of mass producing these things and using resources, we are in fact, in a way, killing ourselves. So there's a re-evaluation now of the objects that are around, of the preciousness of those objects, and maybe re-evaluating and reconsidering how much trash we make as opposed to how much art we make. And my goal in this class is, of course, to have you all turn into artists and save the planet. That's my goal, right? That's my, just to let you know. You are here to pass a course, and you are here to you know, study some art history. But in the process, it really is about your habitual way of doing things, and making beauty for yourself. That's it. If we can do that, perhaps the whole changing of the planet can happen in the process. Adeline, tell us about yourself and your process in Roxbury Community College, and tell us where you are. And by the way, if any of you are struggling in COVID, we need to hear that too, because RCC has some resources for you. So if anyone, number one, if you're gonna, you know, we're gonna do this class, you have to be safe and you need to be well. So if anyone's struggling with either of those, please, please email me as soon as possible. Adeline, you have the floor. I'm sorry to talk so much.
It's okay. Good morning, everyone. So
Good morning.
my name is Adeline Joseph Theodat. I'm married. I have two boys, 16 and 17, and I RCC since last year. So this is my second year over there, and I'm learning early intervention. Early childhood intervention. This is what I am studying over there. And this is my first time in that class. I took, last year I took piano, and this year for the fall, you know, try with the art. Yes. I do some art sometime, but not, when I was in high school. Right. So I do some art, but I love, you know, the beauty of it. Yes. Yeah, and when you make something, and you can see that, oh, I have a little talent, but not too much talent the way other people. But you can do something for yourself when you wanted to. Especially when you're a woman, you know how to decorate. So I love doing that. Yeah, you know, buy stuff and then put them together.
As children, we do this naturally. We pick up sticks or crayons or whatever, and we just draw because it's part of who we are. It's part of, if we see a piece of paper, we'll start just scribbling on it. It's one of the things, so, and you don't have to compare, and I think that kind of comparison of, you know, someone's a better drawer, someone's a worse drawer, understand you're in a continuum, and there's you are where you are, you will take you to the next level. But you can just settle into your own process and believe that it's valid enough, right? It's not about having technical skills. You need a teacher, and that's what I'm here for, right? I'm here to teach you the technical skills of drawing and painting, as well as art history. And you can settle into the process. Maybe the one of the most complicated, or one of the most things that stops the creative process is that voice that tells you the judgment, right? The one that says, oh, that doesn't look right. Oh, you know, the critical voice that's in your, and it's oftentimes
for you is not. For you when you do it, it's not right. But somebody else can come in and say, wow, this is beautiful. Who did it?
We're our worst critic. Like, we're the ones that, you know, it's either someone told us in the background that we weren't the artist, or we weren't the draw, whatever, and somehow that memory has continued, right? It was one of the art teachers maybe from 10 years ago that said, oh, that doesn't look like a flower, or whatever we were, right? And suddenly your mind goes, oh, I am not the art. It's such a strange thing. We come with these blocks, right? And if we can only unblock, we have so much potential of what can really, I mean, really enormous potential. If we understand that we can in fact change the context that we are in, right? Create beauty for ourselves, decorate the spaces for ourselves, create meals for ourselves that are beautiful because they feed us. They literally feed the body, right? Anyway, I'm going to switch gears. I need to show you the first slide show and the slide presentation. So we're going to go through that first. And then, of course, the more you can tell me about who you are, where you come from, that's all going to be very, very relevant, because you're all sitting here with lives of history, lives of what you have been through, experiences, all the education. You've had tremendous, between the four of you, you've had like 40 years or 50 years, I can't add it up, of education. So the enormous amount of material that's already sitting in your brain right now is incredible. And when we have each other, that becomes even more so, because you have each other to reflect with, you have each other's experiences. So all of that is really fantastic for art and creativity. I'm going to share my screen with you right now, and we are going to go into our slideshow. This is the first slideshow of the semester. Will be followed by many more. So we're going to look at, and I'm going to scoot us over a little bit so that you can see as much of the screen as possible, if it'll let me do that. Okay. By the way, this slideshow you will have, and you will have the audio on the slideshow, so you will also be able to review it in your own time. So what are we looking at? Talk to me about what you see. Tell me anything that you see in this image. What is it of?
An image of
Go ahead. Sorry, one we can
one
just
at a time.
hands,
right.
imprint.
Right. Hands and imprints. How were these made?
It looks like it's on a rock, and I don't know.
It's like they print it on the wall.
Yes, it's a print, right? It's on a printed. The wall itself, it's a digital screen, so you can't really tell. But you're right, Amy. The wall is a rock. It's on a cave. I'll give you the title. It's Cueva de los Manos from Argentina, from 10,000 years ago. Okay, so we're on a rock. We have hands. How were they made 10,000 years ago? They're not going to the art supply store to get paint and splash it or spray paint, right?
Yeah.
How are they making it?
That's a good question.
Let me get, what are they using? What kind of pigment? How and where did they get it? Right? You see colors of white. Yeah. What is it?
They're using paper?
Not yet. 10,000 years, not yet. No. You have they
Is
use
that mud.
Right. Okay. So they're using different colored clay. You have white, you have red, and you have black. And then they're not using paper to trace, right? They're actually putting their hands on the rock. So you have the hands on the rock, but they're not painting the hand itself. What are they painting? Do you see how there's a little halo? Like if you look at over here, how did they do that? They're not painting the hand itself. The hand is the rock.
They will be painting in between their fingers.
Right, exactly, Julia. You're absolutely right. They're painting the silhouette of it, because they put the hand on the rock, then they put the paint on, and then they lift it off, and you have an imprint. And it's so interesting because you can now go to Argentina. You can put your hand there in comparison. Think about if you had an image to project into the future for 10,000 years. What would you paint? What would you say? What did they say with these many hands? What do you think is important to them 10,000 years ago? Why have many, like what's important to the culture, and how do you know? Just from the visual. We have brilliant eyes that make meaning. So you have these hands that are on the wall. What does it mean to be a group of hands?
Keep it together.
Right.
Maybe it's a signal of approval that okay, I support, or you know.
Yes, absolutely. It's a community. It's a together. There's many hands. Why is community? Why do you think community would be important 10,000 years ago in Argentina? Right. It's this it might be a communal way of living. It might be, right, this kind of reflection of community, of having many. Maybe you're right, maybe it's like the ceremonies that initiate the next person into the group or something. Who knows, right? Of course, we can't tell, but what's amazing is that you can go to this rock in Argentina, you can put your hand there. By the way, do you think they were left-handed or right-handed?
It's left-handed.
Left hand goes up, which means this hand has the ability to work. Right? So this hand goes up, this hand has the ability to work. And actually, this is the first graffiti technique. Basically, they had bones, hollow bones. They ground the powder. They took water. They drank up the pigment, put it inside. They had a bone and go, and it's sprayed. See how there's a little mist? It's not that they're going with a brush in between these fingers. It's sort of a mist. It actually is like the first graffiti, which is such a lovely technique. It's just, and the paint goes everywhere. So you've answered now the questions that I put in the slide presentation. So your homework is done. Those of you who are not on the call, I need to know the answers. This is little child's size hand, which is very sweet, that is added to the wall as well. It's a nice little detail that even children, when they go to the Cueva de los Manos, can see. This is an interesting image from Cedarburg, South Africa. Still, it is sorry, and this is where you will hit the recording if you need to listen to the recording on your own time. But in Cedarburg, 40,000 years ago, now we are 30,000 years from the Argentine Cueva de los Manos. These are paintings in Cedarburg in South Africa, which is this kind of landscape. Okay, so you go really high up on this plateau, and you have images of this amazing, detailed, small images of animals, right? This is an eland, which was a very important animal to the people who were painting these rock paintings. Tell me what you see here, because it's a very different technique than Cueva de los Manos. It's not a graffiti style. It's not this kind of gesture. This is incredibly precise. So how do you think these, and you can see there's more than
and a walk.
You go ahead.
This one, it's a walk and on the some tunnel.
So you have rock surface that they're carved into, yeah. And tell me more. Tell me what you see. How did they create this space? Do you see how the animal almost feels like it's? I mean, the people who looked at these animals and studied these animals, they didn't have, by the way, in Cedarburg at that altitude. It's not like the animals were there with them. So if I were to ask graduate students to paint me their pets, right? They will put the pet in front of them. They will study, they will do that shading and everything so that they have the right form, the right muscles. Because these folks knew the architecture, skeleton of this animal really, really well. So Edelyn, talk to me, or Amy, whoever. Georgina, yeah, all of you. What do you think? What do you think? I mean, how do you, if I was to tell you, imagine I don't know if you have dogs or cats, or birds, imagine that animal in your head, imagine the skeletal structure, and then how to make a three-dimensional version of that on a rock.
They have a sharp, like a sharp walk, because I think at this time they didn't have any, thing to anything to do art, but they can get a sharp walk, very sharp. They can do a sharp walk like a knife. Yes. And then they can try to do the picture and the walk. So
yeah, I think they're definitely using tools. Look at this one that's seated right here. Do you see? It's not painted in. These are painted. And do you see the colors that they're using? What colors are they?
It's like a red each.
Right. It's an ochre that's coming, and the red will be from the landscape. So you grind the pigment down. But you have three tones here. You have the light tone, the middle tone, and then you have the dark tone. And what that does on a form, if you have a light, medium, and a dark, you read, even though it's a flat surface, you read it as a three-dimensional image. The brilliance of the people who painted these paintings is extraordinary. This makes me think that evolution can collapse, because the sophistication and the way that these were painted is so extraordinary. They know the form of the animal. They know the musculature of the animal. They know how the animal overlaps. See how these legs are right here in the back? These hind legs.
Yeah.
The one's behind and one's in front. That just takes but on a flat surface, that's really hard to do. How do you paint a leg that's standing behind? You have to stop one line, pause, put the other leg on top. So and that wasn't discovered until much, much later in art history. So we were brilliant 40,000 years ago when we were painting this painting, humanity was extraordinary, or at least the folks, the shaman, whoever it was that painted these paintings. Why do you think that eland is important? Why do you think they weren't painting people, they were painting animals? Why?
For them to remember?
Well, I think it may had to do with their spiritual being. Like, maybe they kind of, you know, that was something that they praised or they honored or they.
Yes, yeah. I think you have it right on. Anyone else? Why eland? Why the animal? Why is it such an important symbol? Why is it that these caves are the cave paintings are everywhere in Cedarburg? They have elephants. They have just exquisite representation of animal life. Why is it that the animal life was so important and essential for humanity?
I believe maybe they are innocents, and then sometimes when you care for animals, it's kind of like you treat them like human beings, you know, because there are some animals that they not being treated like well. So I'll use that word well. So
Right.
I mean, caring for these animals, they kind of like treat them as like a family. So
right,
and they are innocent. So yeah.
Right. There's an integration.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that maybe artistically, animal used to have a good image. You know, when you look at giraffe, for instance, you see many colors being made in creation of it. Maybe they want it to be a kind of eyes-catching image. That is the reason why they choose animals. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
The beauty of them, of course, but I think there's more to it. Like Georgina was saying about there wasn't a separation. I mean, I think people knew that fundamentally with these animals, there's a possibility to live, right? There's a possibility to have food, and there is not a separation between I am a human, you are the animal, but understanding that if you drink in the milk of an animal, it's a part of you, and so it's not a separation of. But again, this is all speculation, right? We don't know. We can't go back and ask the shaman who painted these to what they were thinking. There's also, I think, a different way of thinking about the art form as embodying that animal, that whether it's in a spirit way or understanding if they are in fact huntsmen that go with these herds of eland, that maybe there's such a study of them, there's such a knowing when the eland sits down, how it bends its legs over here, right over here. There's even a little tiny baby one right over here on the left hand side. There's such an understanding of the architecture that these people have looked at this herd. They have embodied these animals and this structure and how they sit when they get comfortable. I mean, it's an incredible understanding and knowing. And for me, the idea that we get smarter with every generation collapses when I see work like this, because the sophistication of the people that were before us is incredible. They also mix this powder with possibly the oil of the fat of the animal to make it stick to the wall for so long. And it is this fat that was also nutritious, right? Nutritiously rich for the human being. So with this fat, they were able to survive, right? And I think again that connection between the animal and the human were so in touch. There wasn't that the animal is a separate thing from the human. It's later that we make that separation. We made, and we'll talk about that a little bit later so that I don't lose track. So this is a very different painting, but it was painting, and we fast forwarding to 1800s in the Rocky Mountains. It's called Landers Peak, and it was painted by Albert Bierstadt. What do you see in this painting? What do you see? What is it of? Who, what's the painting about? what's the landscape?
Isn't it the desert?
It's
all kind of animals.
Is it a cattle area?
Like a village.
So there's a village. There's also the land. This is the Rocky Mountains of the U.S. So and Bierstadt is a descendant of Germany. So he goes into the landscape and in the West and paints this painting. And everybody, for the time, this painting was heralded as you know, beautiful #1 painting, sold for a lot of money. Who is the painting for? Who do you think the painting is for? Is it for the natives? Is he going to give it to these folks who are living here, the tribe that's living here? By the way, who is this tribe? And I know it's not a great detail image, but who do you think? So we're in the Americas. We're in the North America. Any ideas?
I think it's a form of documentation, a kind of creating history for upcoming generation, and exactly. A kind of information and education for those of us that have not been there, that this is the picture of how it looks like.
Perfect. Exactly right. It is a depiction of the West. Who do you think commissioned it? Who paid Albert Bierstadt to paint this painting? Would it be the people that are in front of him in the town, the village that he's painting? It's more of a far-fetched. We'll talk about who, because the money behind it is also interesting. Because art, the people who understand art is a writing or a visual of a history, know the power of it, right? The church knew the power of it. They painted the stories, the religious stories, the religious icons, and those survived for hundreds of years, right? But what this painting represents is the Rocky Mountains, and it's a painting of the West, and it told the colonists to say, look at this beautiful landscape. It's out in the West, go and colonize it. It was not obviously for the people, for the Native Americans that are in this landscape, right? It was a propaganda piece by the US government. What's interesting about Bierstadt is that he knew the landscape of Europe. And if you look at the center mountain over here in the center, it's not the Rocky Mountains. What he's actually painting is a photograph of the Matterhorn. So this is the Matterhorn in Switzerland. So he's actually painting the landscape of Europe to get the settlers to resettle and say, look, it's home. Come home, right? Go to the West, go conquer, it's home. And it's such a different, you know, and people know the power behind art and politics because it does hold power, even subconsciously, even though that this mountain is like a little thing in the background that's barely there, it still makes a trigger and memory for somebody from a colonist from Europe, right? And what a strange and weird political structure behind paintings. I mean, what you can read into the landscape, right? The beautiful waterfall, right? Like really kind of inviting landscape. Disregard, you know, the native population seems welcoming. They don't seem threatening. Yeah, and of course, America's based on the slaughter of the Native Americans and slavery, right? So this history is totally repictured. It is a romantic history, and we don't often erase the other history, right? And then we're jumping, this is the last image that we'll see for today. It's called the Bactrian Princesses, and there's a multiple of them. And these are so interesting because they're just little rocks. They're from Afghanistan from about 3,000 years back. But they have this amazing, it's a rock. They're carved into these patterns. But what's interesting is that each of those pieces, so the dress piece is a separate piece. The body structure here is a separate piece. This little hand is a separate piece. This little head is a separate piece. And the hair is a separate rock, okay? And they're stacked together. What's interesting about them is that there's no glue in between. If I took this sculpture home, right? So the question is, and by the way, they're this little, right? If I took it home and with my family, it would be destroyed in about 2 hours, the hand would be lost, the hair would be gone or broken. So, and with Afghanistan's turbulent history, right, it means that artwork is not just about the object. It was beautifully carved, it's a beautiful thing, right? But it's about someone loving that object so much that they put it underneath the mattress in bombardment to protect it from destruction, right? That 3,000 years later, after a completely turbulent history, that these artifacts, these rocks were made. The significance of that tiny little hand on her dress and it being in one piece, like sitting on top of her dress, is just incredible. I mean, that, with the bombardment, with the terrible things that have happened in Afghanistan's history, that should not be possible unless someone takes the time and devotes their life, really, their livelihood to saving these objects. I know someone in Beirut who painted on top of the paintings because they were afraid that someone was going to either take them or they would be broken in the museum. So the painter took the paintings home, repainted them so that no one would uncover them until it was safe enough. So art is also about the love that people have for these objects to pass them on to the next generation in history, right? That's art. That's the thing. And it's not about the thing. It's about how we relate to that object, okay? And if we can start seeing, more of the preciousness maybe of each and the significance of whatever it is that we have around, then perhaps we won't just throw it in the trash bin. Perhaps we can make beauty out of it and realize that it's an incredible thing that I can drink my coffee in a thing in a container, and it's just another kind of recognition. All right, so you five, or we have four that are on the thing, do not have to answer the questions because we've done them together. The folks that are not on this call, please answer the questions that come along with the slideshow, and the slideshow is in our My RCC. The next thing I wanted to quickly go over is about this week's, what we're going to be doing. So any thoughts about the slideshow, or any comments that, anything that came up for you as we were looking at these things together?
Just learning the fact that art is like you have to care for it for it to be valuable and to have some value. And
it's such an interesting concept, yes, of value, right? And we talked about this a day with. We've talked about the idea of value and what we value. In capitalist structure, it's very transient. We value, that our new sneakers for 5 minutes until the new ones come out, or whatever the crazy brain that we have that makes us think that we need something, right? We need something to maybe fulfill us or make us happy. We need the next TV, so that it's such a strange. And it deals with psychology, and there is advertising feeds into it, that if we just have that one thing, instead of recognizing what we have around us, right? Recognizing what already sustains us, and putting some care into that, right? The people, what's interesting about Corona is that, you're now in these structures, you recognize that we're home now, right? We I don't know, I've spent more time at home in the last 6 months than ever. We always were running around, going from place to place, but now we're home. And that can have its wonderful moments, and it can also be a source of, oh my goodness, like this I haven't invested in at all.
Overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming, right? You're with your family, and if you've had a not so ideal family life, it's now time to work on those relationships, right? That person around is the only other person around that you're going to have for a very long time. So it's important to reevaluate and reconsider, and maybe, and it also, if you're not in the right situation, that can be utterly devastating right now, right? Yeah. For mental health and well-being, your safety and your is number one. So if the family life is not good, that's also something to change, right? Understanding that you have the power now to transform that outer context for yourself. All right, any questions before we move on? Okay, all right. Hope you're with me. Let's go to just looking at my RCC. I want to close this out. And let's look to see what we have. By the way, those of you who are not on the phone call, attendance will be taken by me at the end of each week. And the only way that I can take attendance is when you tell me that you've looked through the video. So if you can email me, if you're not on the call, please email me that you've seen the video, and then I'll give you credit. Otherwise, there's no way for me to, sign and take credit because it's all virtual. So each week you will have an overview of the unit. What we want to talk about this week is we are going to have, there's discussion forum, and there is the assignment of what you're supposed to do. So the discussion forum is really important because it's a time for each of you to read each other's posts, to share ideas. This week, I just want you to think about what you think art is, and what are the activities that you already do that could be considered artistic, whether it is cooking, or dancing at the stove, or singing in the shower. What is it that you do that gives you that feeling that you are, you're creating, you're a creative individual. It could be writing. It could be, again, it could take any form. So what comes naturally to you that you already do that's artistic? And then I would like you to draw something. Don't panic. It doesn't have to be a realistic representation of looking at something and studying it and then putting a drawing in. Actually, if you put on good music for yourself, the one that you normally dance to, and take whatever you have, pencils, crayons, whatever you have around you, and a piece of paper, and if you want to just dance to the rhythm with your hand, that's a valid drawing. Okay, is that clear to everyone? If you want to draw a flower or whatever gives you pleasure, fine. Don't feel like you have to achieve drawing skills. I'm not judging you on the drawing style, okay? This is a process of you letting go and actually spending 30 minutes in your day to just focus on yourself, have a little fun, and maybe be a little playful like you were when you were 2 and 3 and had pleasure just picking up a pencil and doodling for a little bit, okay? So it doesn't have to be, you'd see the difference between the drawing styles. And then the last thing that we're going to do, there's a video link for doing it yourself sketchbook, okay? So I will switch to I have a different video to show you sketchbooks and how to sew them. So with a sketchbook, you can see it here. All right, sketchbooks are really important and handy. So this one I created, I think over 20 years ago, a long time ago, back in the history, back in my day. And what's really important and special about these sketchbooks is that those of you who want to, you can also, of course, buy a sketchbook. But sewing your own sketchbook and writing your own history inside that sketchbook makes a world of difference, especially now. Historians are going to look at this time and this epoch, and they're going to write their own stories. And if you don't write your own, they will write it for you, like they have done from the beginning of time, and it's enough now. Your voice, your story is the most important one, okay? So you can, if you want to purchase a sketchbook and get it at the store, that's totally fine. But there's something about creating, you just get paper from for the copier machine or whatever, or fine paper. It can be old paper. And there's 2 videos that will be on my courses. One is not by me, but it's also a tutorial of how to sew your own sketchbook. You just need needle, you need a thread, and some paper, and that will give you the sketchbook. You can, for the covers, if you have cardboard, that will work for the cover of your sketchbook. You can also have it be, if you staple, a sketchbook is basically pieces of paper that are put together, either sewn, or you can take a stapler to it. And there will be a specific tutorial of exactly how to do it. I think it's about half an hour long, okay? And I will do this on Friday. I will be sewing a new sketchbook So I will take a video of how to create this particular kind, okay? But this is where this is a way for you to create your book, your story. You're going to be using the sketchbook for drawing and for writing throughout the course. I'm going to do as much as I can to try to get us off the screen. I know this is a virtual course, but I'm going to encourage you to go outside and draw, go in a place, you know, sit by a tree if you can find one, or go to the beach. Find a place for yourself where you can maybe escape your everyday routine, even if it is for 5 minutes. If you have a balcony or whatever, if you can give yourself some space to feel good in, right? Whatever that is. Maybe it's just a chair in your house, maybe where you can just sit and get away from the corona pandemic and everything that's crazy and on the mind and all that. All right, so that's it this week. You're going to reflect in the discussion forum. You will draw for half an hour, and then if you can create your sketchbook, say not by next Monday, but by next week, by the end of the week, or buy it, that's fine too, all right? But tell me the difference between making your sketchbook yourself and then ordering it, because it's the difference between trash and art. It's just a subtle thing. Not that the sketchbook that you buy from the store is trash. However, that sketchbook that you buy at the store could have gone all the way to China and back, right? Creating pollution on the water there and back, right? So what's the difference between doing it yourself and buying it?
If you did one, it's like you would take time, and you take time to do it. It's more valuable for you than if you go and buy one. I like it or not, but it's only for 1 day or 2 days. But if you do it, it's gonna be, I did it. I'm the one who did the book. The book is for me, so I'm gonna keep it. Exactly. Even for your grandchildren, one day you can say, I did this one.
Yes.
I think is a kind of creative. If you do something by yourself, if you don't know it, while doing it, you are learning.
Yeah.
Right.
And you are improving your creativity.
Yeah.
Apart from being part of what you can show as part of the job you have done, I think it's more and interesting to do it by ourselves, but it may not be as perfect as the branded one. Right. But we might have gotten one knowledge of the other that will help our creative art.
Right. And it's so interesting when it's not perfect, right? When this idea that perfection is what we have in our brain of being perfect. If it has imperfections, if it has curves, or if it has certain scumble on it, and it's yours, right? It has little marks on it from when I was 20. That's relevant to me, right? And you're right. This feels good. It feels good to touch. Yeah. It also goes against the whole grain of capital thinking. It goes against, it's like a revolution. If we do things for ourselves, it means we're not feeding into a system, either economically or financially, or we're not feeding into that. We're feeding into us. We're feeding because that's what we need to really feed, right? We need to reconsider giving someone else a part of what we want. When we do it ourselves, when you build your own house, or when you build your own garden, or to, and grow your own food, it matters. It has ripple effect for everything. It means that tomato doesn't have to go to the store, go on the truck, right? And so that whole structure suddenly will have less and less people that invest into it. I think it's a whole other way of being, which I'm excited to start. And now with Corona, possibly for the first time ever, we might have a minute to do that. By the way, if you don't have time to sit and create a book for an hour, I completely understand. And there's absolutely no judgment if you want to go to the store and pick up a notebook, okay? That's fine too. This is your time. This is your class. It's going to be about your art, okay? What you can invest into it. And by the way, for you women and mothers and for you, that doesn't mean that the men have it any different, but understand that your time is the most precious thing. You need to spend your days on this planet doing exactly what you want to do. So try to, even in this course, try to find a hook for yourself into your interest, okay? If you're not interested in some of the material, if you're not interested in a particular artwork, and you may not be, some of the artwork that I might show you, you might not care about, and that's fine. Find a way for yourself to engage in the course that's relevant to you, okay? And with that, that's all I have for today. I will be meeting you like this Monday and Wednesday if you're available. If you are not available, please watch these videos on your own. And then I will have office hours. Let me show you when those will be. My office hours are set. It's inside the syllabus. Has everyone found the syllabus?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So let me.
Is Monday holiday or not?
Monday is a holiday, so not this Monday. Thank you for reminding me. It's good to take a holiday and do exactly what you want, okay? I forgot, yeah, that day we have off. So next Wednesday is the next time we will come, and that would be a great time for you to have your sketchbook with you, because we will start working in that sketchbook. Let me share my, yeah, go ahead, questions?
Can you share with us, yes, share with us on the screen how to do the discussion forum?
Right, okay. Yep, so when you're in my RCC, the first thing I wanted to show you is the syllabus. If you click on the syllabus, you will get an outline. And in the top section, right over here, I'm pointing with my hand because I keep forgetting that we're online. So this is this is all the important information. We're going to be meeting in the mornings. This is the Zoom link for the entire course. So every time that you go into Zoom, this is the link that you're going to need. My office hours are from 4 to 5 on Wednesday afternoon if you have questions. Of course, you can email me or call me at this number. I will try to respond as much as I can. I also have to set some boundaries because I have some 4 classes. So I have about 85 students that would be calling. So I'll try to answer you within 48 hours of email, okay? The next thing is discussion forums go over here. So here on the left-hand side, you will see the discussion forum. Discussion forum means that whenever you post into it, everyone in the class is going to see what you're writing, okay? So the first one that we have here, you're going to click on reflection, and it says, what's art? What are the movements and the habits that you already do that could be considered artistic, right? If you could create anything, no limitations, what would it be? If you could create anything for yourself, right? What would you create? So answer those questions, and if you can, read 2 or 3 other people's questions, and you can comment on each other's as well. The discussion forum will be like a tiny part of your grade. It's not going to be your whole grade, but certainly this is the only way to really participate in the class. Most likely you will do, and I will try to keep the activities inside the class time. So if we have 3 hours a week to be in lecture, I'm also going to use some of that time for you to actually do some creative work in, okay? So for example, the drawings, or so that it's not more time that you have to spend outside of class to do your work. You might have 1 or 2 hours of extra reading that you will do a week. How are you all doing with work and with budgeting your time? How is your schedule? Are you working full time? What's happening? Because I want to be aware of that too and mindful of that.
Yeah, I work full time. I have a new baby.
Yeah. So many of you are going to be like Georgina, where you're going to have, and of course, all of you are incredibly busy people. So we will try to make the class as concise and as precise as possible so that you are not wasting your time. I would budget 3 hours and that's it. Okay. Especially if you have a busy schedule. If that is also too much, just let me know. Keep in contact with me, keep in touch with me, let me know, email me, you know, this assignment I can't do right this week, something's happening with a baby, whatever, okay? And we will make adjustments. You will all pass the course. I have no doubt. So it's just a process of going through it together, learning maybe a little bit of how to make life a little bit more beautiful for ourselves. And that's it. Really, let's come out of it.
So Professor, do we have to reply to 3 people that we have to read, or we just?
You don't have to. There's no, you don't have to. I think it's interesting to read each other's perspectives, just to know who each other is. But you don't have to, there's no set amount that you have to respond to 3, okay? I'm happy if you just post your statement, that's great, if that's all you have time for. If you have time to read another one while you're nursing the baby, that's great. If you don't, and if you want to close the computer, that's also fine. That's probably better for the baby. All right, and then the coursework, this is where you're gonna have your assignments listed. The first assignment is to create or buy a sketchbook. Okay. Oh, and the drawing is for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. For the classes in the morning, can for the Zoom, it's only in the morning that you can do it?
We can consider this as a class. So what I could do is I could have one class in the morning and one class in the afternoon to see on the Monday and Wednesday if we could do, for example, something like Monday in the morning at this time, and then Wednesday in an afternoon, probably like 4 to 5:15 or something. So we could have an afternoon session if that works better for people. What I need to hear from you, and those of you who are not on the call, just send me an email. If another time is available, would you like to do that? Would you like to do one morning, one afternoon? Is that better for people?
On those both 2 days, Monday and Wednesday?
Mm-hmm. So one day would be morning.
Afternoon will be good for me.
Okay. Anyone else for the afternoon slot?
Morning's good for me. I'm in the process of trying to set up a remote learning center.
Yeah.
For my youth. So if I can get it in the morning,
I think I'm okay with the situation right now.
Okay.
I think I'm okay with your Monday and Wednesday morning time.
Okay.
It's perfect.
And Adeline, if we don't switch to the Monday, you can always watch. You don't have to be inside the class on Monday morning. You can watch it in the afternoon. And but again, if there's more of you that would like an afternoon session, I can make that happen. So I just need to hear the emails or just let me know. Georgina, what works best for you? Is mornings okay?
Yeah, morning is okay. I work in the afternoon. It might be okay for me because I can do it while I'm at work, but the distraction will be there. So it doesn't matter. I can do afternoon as well, but there will be some distraction because I'll be at work.
Okay.
Yeah. But my question is, so if we log in to the class, we don't have to go back and watch the videos and answer the questions.
Yeah, you don't have to watch videos if you've been on the call.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, no, you don't have to double.
If you're on the call, you're doing something, it's okay to like the video, you have to be present in there. No, if you're listening to it.
Oh yeah. If you those of you who are not on the call, right? Or if you're working and you have just the headphones on, you can refer. The classes will always be recorded. I will always send the link out by the end of the day, because it takes a day to process them on the video. And you can review it in your own time, but you absolutely don't have to be. This is asynchronous learning, so it means that you don't have to be on the call to get credit for the course. For me, all I need is for you to hear that or send an email saying, I've watched, if you haven't been on the class, I've watched the video, and then I can take attendance and say, right, we've all seen the video, so we are all on the same page, really.
Okay.
The other thing I want you to think about in your schedule is, when do you have time for you? When in your schedule?
Afternoon.
Okay. When in your schedule do you schedule time for yourself? Not for your family, not for your children.
I don't have
not
one.
For your wife or husband. You don't have one.
I don't have one. I don't remember the last time I have one.
Yeah, we're going to change that, Georgina, if that's okay.
Yeah. That's how bad it is. I don't have one.
Even if it's 5 minutes. I remember when my children was little, right? And the bathroom becomes a really nice space because you can close the door for 5 minutes. And even a space like that where you can have 5 minutes
it does.
to yourself, to breathe, right? Again, you can't take care of other people if you don't take 5 minutes for yourself and just you know, let yourself relax so that you can in fact be there for the family when they need you. And also I would question if thinking about how much your family may need you, and maybe you can give the responsibility. In COVID, it's really a little bit flexible now. You know, my husband can do dinner, which before, you know, before I was like, oh, wait. I was like, wait, we're home. Wait, oh, you're done with your work before I am. Why don't you cook tonight, right? And it's a whole other, like, idea that it's a possibility to switch and maybe share. Oh, you can do the laundry. Oh, right. And my children too. They're older now. They're now 15 years old. I said, right. And so even the 7-year-old, like, you can take the dishes out. Let's reevaluate.
Take the trash out.
Take the trash out. Right. All these little things that you think that you have to do, you have to be responsible for. Maybe you can have those 5 minutes to yourself and have someone else do the other thing that needs to be done, right? Claiming a little bit like, yes, I'm on this planet for a short amount of time. I don't have to be the one that cleans the toilets all the time. I don't have to be the one that cooks all the time, right? We can kind of negotiate these things now. I think it's important. I think it's important for the men and the women to reconsider, you know, what makes you full, what makes you complete, so that you can in fact give yourself to that other person as much as possible. But understanding that you need to be filled first, right? Yeah. So this week when you're drawing for 30 minutes, tell your family, you do the cooking for 30 minutes. I have a drawing assignment. I'm going to go listen to music and I'm going to dance on the paper. And that's my assignment. You don't have to tell them what the assignment is. If they see you dancing and drawing with color, you just tell them it's an assignment and take that time for yourself. Okay?
Did you have to buy, because there's when you draw on something, so there's some paperwork that you have to buy to draw what you want to do, or you just do it in a piece of paper or something?
Right. If you have mail that comes in, if you have cardboard that comes in, all of those resources are something that's going to be going to the trash eventually, right? So if you take whatever you have, your family has lying around, if you're, you know, you have a cup of pencils, colors, perhaps that you want. If you have colored, if you want to buy yourself some colored pencils and really invest into yourself, perfectly great. You know, it's a good thing to have some color in your life, especially going into the fall when color becomes less and less. The summer has been, we feel good and summer has been nice, but now going into the fall, things are going to go gray and brown, which is what all the colors mixed together actually make. So all the colors are actually there, even on a gray day. But you might for yourself want to get some colored pencils and just put music on, and whatever surface you have. I mean, cardboard, if boxes come in with cereal boxes you can cut up, you can draw on that. If you don't have paper lying around, there's certainly other resources if you look around that maybe you can find. I don't want you to go spending money getting supplies. Whatever you have lying around the house, just look around and see what's there. If you are struggling with material, I can also talk to RCC to provide some material. So just let me know, really. I have no problem doing that. But envelopes that come in the mail, cardboard boxes, paper. For the sketchbook, if you are sewing your own sketchbook, you will need about 50 sheets of white paper. It doesn't have to be necessarily white. It could be the ground, it could be any color as long as you can draw and write on it, right?
What type of paper is that?
This is just printing. You know how you go to the printing paper? It's a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper.
The hard one?
Okay.
This one is not as thick. This is the regular, the common paper. Yeah, regular paper. And about 50 sheets will make a book that's, you know, then is 100.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. If you want to get real fancy, the cardboard that's on the cover front and back is actually something called chipboard, and it's a denser version of cardboard. It's like a thicker version of cereal boxes, but cereal boxes are fantastic. Right? I often save when my kids have cereal or, lots of food comes in boxes. That's a perfect surface for the cover of a book or a surface you can paint one side and then start painting on or drawing on cardboard. So look around and see if there's anything from the recycling bin that you can just put on the side for your art for this semester. Okay.
I believe when you buy the book and you draw sheet after sheet, you might keep the book, maybe show it to your kids and stuff like that.
Exactly.
When you do the paper, you cannot like trash them. So it would be advisable for us to buy the book and then at least we keep that book. Yes. So this is my hard work.
Yes. Yeah. It's just something that and it's interesting because the artworks stay around sometimes past your lifetime, right? The reason that we have paintings of the Baroque paintings around is because someone took the time to create them, and your grandchildren will have a record, right? When they talk about what people did in COVID and learning about it in our school, your grandkid is going to have your book with your story in it, which is so different from, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about, the different writings of how people have written history, as opposed to whose history is actually written, right? In American history, 90% of history has been erased, right? We don't have it. Thankfully, there's a new history that was written by Howard Zinn called People's History, where he took snippets of different, and that book is linked to your course. We're going to read from that book. He took different people's accounts. So he took an account of the friar, the priest that was sailing with Columbus, who then wrote in his book saying, I've seen so much death and destruction over the last 3 months since we arrived in the Americas, that my hand shakes and trembles as I write these pages. He was so touched and moved by the death that the colonists had made, because there's so much sickness started, right? And of course, it's these different stories, it's these different accounts that paint a richer, bigger picture of history than when we see it in history books, the linear, like this is when Columbus sailed and this is what happened next and this is the next battle. It's never written from the point of view of the person who lost the battle, right? The person who writes the books is from the point of view of who won the war, right? So you never get sort of a big picture. In this class, we're going to try as much as we can to look at a bigger picture, right? To look at everybody's story, what that means, right? As humans, as humanity. Anyway, any questions for today?
No.
It's been such a pleasure.
All the question already answered.
Okay. It's been such a pleasure to meet you all. Hopefully it'll be a good journey for you. If you are stressed, just send me a quick email. I can't do it, I have many things that are on my plate, and that's fine. We will work through it together, okay? Because it is an unusual time. We're going to be unusually flexible, okay?
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure, and take care, and I'll see you next week. And have a good, relaxing weekend.
Holiday.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.